So I work with Tewa Women United. It's a nonprofit located in Española, New Mexico. It started from a grassroots group of women who were meeting together for support for the violence, suicide, addictions, poverty, abuse that was happening within their homes. And it grew into a nonprofit that now is in its 26th year this year. And it has different program areas. I work with the Environmental Health and Justice Program, where we work a lot to address the nuclear weapons contamination, a lot of the dirty energy issues in our community, and a lot of the violence and despair in our communities. So our mission is to empower Indigenous women to uncover the strength and skills they possess to become positive forces of change in their communities and their homes and families. And it's part of our greater vision to end all forms of violence against women, girls, and Mother Earth. We have different program areas. We have, including the Environmental Justice Program, we have our Indigenous Women's Health Program, which is training birth workers, community doulas, and they work a lot with the other midwives and birth workers in the community, and also work to form relationships with the hospital to increase that support for pregnant women. We have our Owingeh Body Sovereignty, Healthy Sexuality, and Body Sovereignty program, which is a sex ed curriculum developed specifically for Native youth so that it's culturally relevant and they can relate more to the teachings in the curriculum. And right now they're having an all-girls summer program called Butterfly Wings that's been pretty beautiful to watch. So they spent years developing the curriculum, and now they're implementing it where they're going into schools and sharing it with different groups in the community. We also have our Voices program, which works to advocate and address impacts from domestic violence, sexual assault. And then we have our Grandmother's Circle, which is a support group for grandmothers. What am I missing? I think that's it. We also have recently been starting a men's program, which is a group for men and fathers to reclaim healthy masculinity with their men in our community. So that's kind of in its beginning forms, but we had to get strong enough in our own power as women before we were able to bring in that work with men. So it's exciting to see that beginning to unfold. We do a lot of networking nationally and internationally that I've been fortunate to be part of. This is just a couple of examples of some of the places. This is with the Black Project in Bronx, New York. One of my favorite events that I look forward to every year, in partnership with Marion's organization, Honor Our Pueblo Existence, and another organization, New Mexico Acequia Association. We're part of a Food and Seed Sovereignty Alliance, along with a couple other people of color organizations. And there's a seed exchange every spring where we do ceremony to bless our seeds and our land, earth, and water. It's intercultural with the Hispanic people and the Native people of the community who have that history of coexistence and living in a land-based way. So every year, that's the kind of time of year that centers me and gets me ready for the work that I'm passionate about with gardens and seeds and seed saving and honoring that connection that we all have with our corn mothers. This is from one of the seed exchanges that I was just speaking of. It's important that we create the spaces where we honor those seeds, and especially in the face of GMO contamination, that we continue to share those heirloom seeds and keep growing out our seeds so that they are adapting in the face of climate change, that we always have that ability to grow our own food and sustain ourselves. This is the preparation for the seed blessing. We also have a water ceremony for that, where waters are joined, and then the earth and seeds and water are all joined to make seed balls. And I have one of the seed balls from that on the table for the giveaway. We also have a seed library at Tewa Women United that we've been working to grow out. So the idea is that seed banks are also important, but a seed library is where you share the seed and the people in the community just bring back as much as they borrowed at the end of the season, and where they can have free access to the good seed that I was talking about. And it's a really good way to just provide that so people don't have to go to the stores and get that seed where you don't know where it came from. And I would really encourage everyone to go to your communities and try to find the local seed where you live. That's also part of reclaiming that and lifting up that indigeneity of place, is to look for those seeds that have existed in that place alongside the people of that place. This is one of our small gardens in the farmers market that we kind of adopted, and we have to go back and work on it actually. That reminds me. I love the gardening work because it exemplifies a lot of the work we do that is intergenerational and multicultural. We have a lot of agricultural networks where this is some of our farmer friends from Quechua Association, the Madre Tierra organization in Guatemala, who came and showed us how to grow amaranth again. And it was one of our traditional pre-contact foods that we kind of forgot how to grow and eat and cook with, and so that's being revived. And it's a really, I don't know if you're familiar with amaranth, but it's a superfood. It was also went through colonization along with native peoples, where it was outlawed to even grow it when the Spanish conquered southern Turtle Island. And to the point where they were cutting off the hands of people trying to grow this seed. And but it's still surviving, it's still being planted, and it's still traveling those ancient roadways and networks of connection that people have been traveling since time immemorial. Thinking about migration and immigration, those roadways that exist are also part of that First Nation respect and commitment, where we had those paths to enter into other people's lands, so that we could share this knowledge and share this information about how to grow food and sustain ourselves and share things that were good. Anything that you know that's good, it needs to be shared with as many people as possible. This is an old flyer from one of our annual events called the Gathering for Mother Earth that happens in the fall. And it was created to bring ceremony and thoughts and prayer and intention to our sacred sites that were contaminated that we spoke of earlier. And so it's that part of giving energy to our ancestral energies, to the land, in a different way of addressing issues, but also a place to dialogue and talk and organize around those same issues and network. This year it's happening in October 15th and 16th if you're in New Mexico, but you can always look and see when we're having it if you're interested in coming. And so this is making seed balls again with some youth at Gathering for Mother Earth. This is our beloved Kathy Sanchez, who couldn't be here before sunrise ceremony at the gathering site. We also have a spiritual run for the gathering, where the runners start from one of our ancestral ruins at Sankawe, which is adjacent to Area G, the nuclear waste dump. And so they carry those prayers of healing from the waste sites to the gathering site, and all the prayers and intentions along the way. And pilgrimages and runs are part of our traditional forms of prayer. We do a lot of speaking and giving our Native women's, Tewa women perspective on a lot of the issues that we face. And so a lot of it is just inserting our voices in places where normally we wouldn't be present or silent. This is us with some of our Dene sisters from the uranium mining communities. This is where we were during a PNM public hearing where they were debating coming up with the clean energy plan and all that stuff I won't go into. That was yesterday. But it's really inspiring to, again, have so many elder ko'oi and elder aunties that are doing this work that are passing on the torch and never giving up. Here's Kathy again in front of our building. And I think she's holding one of the corns we just picked or dried. This is taken at our project this year called the Española Healing Foods Oasis, which is a garden that we're building on a slope, a steep slope in a public park that we recently terraced, and we're planting to teach the community about dryland agricultural techniques and dryland farming, rainwater harvesting, water conservation. It's all edible, medicinal herbal plants, and it's kind of an outdoor educational space just to encourage that learning of all our plant relatives and the ways that we've been growing food in this area since time immemorial. A lot of our ancestral farms, this is modeled after a lot of those kind of farming. And it's really exciting because, I mean, we're going to label all the plants in English, Spanish, and Tewa in 3 different languages, and honoring the tricultural community that now exists where we live. And it's been really beautiful to see all the community coming out and helping to build it and create it. And just all the generosity from the people that have been coming to make it happen. It's been in the works a long time, and the fact that it's in a park and accessible to everyone is also really inspiring to me. And it's images like this that just fill me up. That's our grandmother, Maricela. She's actually with the New Mexico Acequia Association I spoke with earlier. They have a beautiful farm out in Chimayo. This is us with some of the women we're involved with. That's our landscape architect. We're going over the planting plan of what plants we're going to put in there, along with some of our doulas so that we can make sure and put the herbs that the birth workers use for birth in the garden. And it's neat when you get together and you start talking plants and everyone has different stories about all the plants. And I was in a permaculture workshop where they were saying medicinal edible plant is like saying plant. So everything has a use and a purpose and a function. We recently bought our office building, and in a partnership with New Energy Economy, we're going to put solar panels on the roof. So that's an exciting project that they just, now that they bought the building, they just replaced the roof that needed fixing, and so it's good to see that solar power going up. This woman, cardboard that you see cut out is the inspiration for our Protect Those Most Vulnerable campaign. And her name is Owingeh, and that means land worker mother. And when I talked about the current exposure standard, who is based on an adult white male, that's who we want to change the standard of protection to. And if she's protected, then all of us are protected by default. So environmental regulations need to protect those most vulnerable. This is at a demonstration in January in the snow also for clean energy. That's my little boy. He definitely gives me zest. He's very zestful. This is some of the women we work with and some women from the Mexico Community Foundation who gave us an award, and it was an award for organizations that do a lot with the little, so that was nice. It's nice to be celebrated and to have recognition every now and then for the work you're doing. And you can see it was a surprise kind of award. We thought we were just meeting with funders, and they ended up giving us an award that day, so that was nice. This is a climate march in Rome that took place last summer, a couple summers ago, and it was an interfaith gathering that we're first starting to network with, and it was really beautiful to see all the different faiths and backgrounds come from and to gather in true global diversity and spirit of, like the Laudato Si says, care for a common home. And it was in celebration of the release of the Laudato Si. So we marched through Rome to St. Peter's Square, and I had a picture, I forgot to put it in, but I took a picture of my moccasins on St. Peter's Square. And I was like, wow, so I was carrying a lot of prayers for just the contradictions we've been talking about and for that reconciliation and everything. And the Pope Francis gave us a shout out from this little red pedestal. It was fun. And my mom had sent me with this basket of like stuff, and she's like, see if you can get this blessed by Pope Francis. I was like holding up her basket, like while he was way up there and giving the people a blessing. And so I told her, it's like, yep, that was good, it's blessed. So she had all these scapulars and medals, and she wanted me to, so I did that for her. This is another one of our Gathering for Mother Earth runners coming in after their run, carrying that bundle. That bundle was actually created by men who were abusers, perpetrators of violence. And I think it's really beautiful that that was carried in the front of the run. There's our Tsayaing and our sacred site at the Valles Caldera. That's the opening of the supervolcano that we spoke of to some of you earlier for the winter solstice. Again, adding that prayers and ceremony to our ancestral energies, to our sacred places, instead of giving our energy to those negative places that are causing harm. We're starting to return to give our energy to the places that feed us in exchange for us feeding them. So I love that picture so much too. Our grandmothers and our aunties. We're part of a coalition called Communities for Clean Water, alongside Partnership for Earth Spirituality with Sisters Marlene and Joan, Honor Our Pueblo Existence, Concerned Citizens for Nuclear Safety, New Mexico Seki Association. Am I missing anybody? And Amigos Bravos from Taos. And so we make up the core organizations of Communities for Clean Water that are working to address and preserve our water for ceremony and agriculture and all of the things that we share that river for. I'll have some clipboards in the other room probably. I won't get to it till maybe tomorrow, but we have a shared value statement if anyone wants to sign on to it around our water. And we recently have been working with youth called the Youth Council Initiative Project, and this was for National World Water Day. We went and walked down to the river and did some prayers there. We were talking about watering this morning. We have a lot of different forms of agriculture. We have the dryland farming, we have irrigation farming, which is this style where we have channels from the river that diverts into our fields. And it's important that, our water is preserved so that we can continue to sustain ourselves like we've always been. There's another flyer from this year's Owingeh Tah Pueblos and Semillas Seed Exchange. Here's Navitoa Gia, and I talked about her already. And then just that picture again of my 9-month pregnant self, and with the quote of, and really lifting up the teachings of Mohawk midwife Goji Cook, who's put forth that idea of woman as the first environment, and lifting up the sacredness of woman, because nobody comes to this place without first passing through woman. Nobody comes through this place without first being in those waters of women. And so again, that connection between the land and our bodies, there's no separation, and how we come into this world. And we were even having a conversation last night about how if we want to create this culture of peace amidst all this culture of violence, so much of that tone is set with how we're even born, how we come into this world. We have that entryway ceremony of coming into place. What's our entryway ceremony of being born? And what is that going to look like? So that's all I have, and I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.